I had gas for a second.
Don't even worry about it.
All right.
What a great way to start the show. Howdy,
Yeah.
folks. Welcome to the Shadow and Sun Show. To my right or left, depending on how you're looking at things, is the world famous Bruce Lombardo of Dick's Division. And tonight we are going to talk about one of our all-time favorite classic role-playing games from the 90s, the one, the only, the Mutant Chronicles.
Oh man, look at that.
Brought to you. This is the 1993 version from Heartbreaker Hobbies, a company I used to sort of work with way back in the day. Just absolutely love everything about it. I've played every single game. I own just about everything they've ever made for Mutant Chronicles, except the new Modifius. And there's a bunch of Doom Trooper cards I'm still looking for because I gotta play that game with my son sometime real soon because I had so much fun playing that silly card game back in the day with scores of different groups of card players. So what got you into Mutant Chronicles?
A friend of mine, who's now a 04 in the Army, he gets promoted to 05 here, I believe, in January.
Cool.
He when he was just a scrub, when he was working in, of all things, sanitation out at Archer Daniels Midland Company, West Plant in Decatur, Illinois. He came out of a convention with this rule book that he had a second ed hardcover. No, it was a second ed softcover book, I believe, because they never made a hardcover. Not that I know of. Not
Yeah,
until,
this one right here.
Yeah, that one. That was a hardcover. Okay.
No, it's not hardcover, but it's not hardcover, but it is second edition. I've never seen hardcovers of these. I wish
they never made.
Yeah, but
he had that book, and he's like, I got the second edition book, and the designer says he wants to update all the extra books, all the supplemental books to second ed, but they don't see a path to that yet. They gotta really get some people involved with it. Mm-hmm. And so he starts running this game at my buddy's house, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. It's futuristic, but it's got a lot of antique mindset in it because the way that people are thinking, like, we can't have thinking machines, we can't have things that could possibly have an agenda of all their own. And it reminded me of Dune. Excuse me. It reminded me of Dune
very much so.
And they had a very much just this rich setting in it. And so I opened up the book. Keep in mind, he had all the first edition supplemental books, like, Bauhaus, the Cybernet, the Cybertronic, who was the Capital?
Mishima, Capital.
Yeah. And then we had Ilion and Algaroth for the bad guys.
And the other ones never came out, but yes. There's the Freelancer's Guide.
Yeah.
Mishima, Imperial.
And I read the Freelancer's Guide cover to cover. I'm like, man, this is so cool.
Bauhaus, Brotherhood, and Algaroth. Yep, got them all.
The first edition stuff was so fun to read because you had the main text in the it was like a single column format or maybe a dual column format, but in the margins you would typically have like a fiction piece.
Mm-hmm.
And the DM we had, Denny, he would read those to us while we were creating our characters and creating an extra character before every adventure because we found out how freaking deadly this world is. And the first adventure, I rolled up a freelancer because I thought, man, a freelancer sounds so cool because I'm going to be Sam Spade in space,
Mm-hmm.
And then we go on this adventure, and I'm just kind of sitting there with my buddies on watch, and this Venusian bat as a random encounter attacks me in the middle of, while we're camped. 6 dudes, big fucking guns, and I mean 5 minutes rule. I dropped the F bomb. My bad.
No, don't worry about it.
We have big guns, just like in that movie Split Second with Rutger Hauer, and this stupid bat just swoops down, and I make no perception check. I roll a nat 20 on perception, which in this game, nat 20's bad. Natural ones are good. And I'm like, dude, I rolled a natural 20. And Denny didn't explain that to us yet. And so he just starts laughing at me. He's like, oh, I'm sure you did, Bruce. I'm like, no, dude, look, it's a natural 20. He's like, all right, this big bat swoops down and roll me your armor save for your helmet. Helmet, I told you I took my helmet off because it's kind of hard to hear things in the jungle when you got your helmet on. I already know this. And he's like, okay, Mr. Military Experience, that's cool. The bat rips your head from your shoulders, and there's a little bit of neck left, and it's spewing everywhere. And everybody wakes up as your body flops over headless. And I'm just kind of like, what? The what? He's like, yeah, you're just sitting at a game. I mean, start of the game, 6 minutes into the start of this game, I'm dead. And they sat around that living room for about 6 hours while Denny pretty much beat the other players, and their armor was damn near shredded by the end of the night. And they found a spot where they could rest and get not some hit points back, but at least rearm and find another guy to take my character's place, which I could re-roll a new character. And the thing I liked about it was a character creation system. They gave you this timeline. You started like a 15-year-old kid, and if you lived to like 26 without starting to play, around 26 was when the pollution started taking a negative effect on your life, and you start dropping constitution and strength and all this. It was a great game. Hey, multi-gun man. It was just a really great game. Very well realized, very good with its descriptors. The narrative supported the rules, which was kind of neat because at the time we didn't have a lot of games where the rules were there to kind of enforce the narrative and vice versa. It felt like a lot of times they would have rules set up and you'd have to kind of like work around them. They were obstacles, but nope, the rules in this game were fantastic. And so we played this campaign with Denny, and for about maybe 3 months, we played it every night for about 3 to 6 hours. And that was a blast. That was my exposure initially to Mutant Chronicles.
My first experience was actually with the board game Siege of the Citadel, which was basically like a Hero Quest Space Crusade sort of continuous going up a level kind of game with 4 Doom Troopers going into the Citadel, fighting some monsters on a mission. Hopefully, not getting your asses handed to you. And from there, I went on to the card game, then the role-playing game, and then the miniature war game. And now I'm back almost full circle after 30 plus years of being just, a huge fan. I even liked the movie. I don't know what you thought about the movie. It wasn't great. It wasn't even. Pardon?
It's not Shakespeare. The movie.
No.
The movie is far from great. But if you're looking for a fun movie, that will deliver.
Yeah,
actually,
my son and I watched it, and he knew almost nothing about Mutant Chronicles, so he went into it, just as a complete stranger, and he enjoyed it. It was enough to get us to start playing Siege of the Citadel because I went in on the Kickstarter. I went big and got hundreds of miniatures, not hundreds, but dozens of new missions and 3 or 4 expansion sets with just everything you can imagine, pretty much enough to actually use it to play Warzone, which was the tactical skirmish game.
Mhm.
Very very much like Warhammer 40K and very much in competition with it, but it had a completely different feel to it. That was one
I
of the things
like
I liked
Warzone
about it.
better. I liked
Pardon?
Warzone. I liked Warzone so much better than Warhammer 40K.
Yeah, I have to admit that too. While it didn't have the vehicles, etc., it gave you more of a more options what you could do each turn with literally each miniature having like three different actions, and they didn't all have to be the same action. You could do
Yeah.
all kinds of different things. Um, you know, moving, hand to hand, shooting, but things like aiming and casting art, which were the spells that certain miniatures or characters would have,
Typically
and
Brotherhood.
it was so much more versatile. And it's coming back. Actually, they're working on a new Kickstarter for it, and of course, I will back the hell out of it, provided it it isn't super expensive because it tried to do the Kickstarter a couple of months ago, and they were asking something like $40 a squad of 5 or less miniatures, but because they decided to go with all kinds of separate individual helmets and sculpts and things like that, it was just too much money for too little product, and it failed miserably. But Mutant Chronicles has had this weird sort of curse to it throughout the years that it would get some speed and then just fall apart. Gain
Well, you
some
remember?
speed.
Do you remember back in 2008 or nine? They tried putting it out, and they had like little blister packs that you could pick up 2 figures for like $10. Do you
Yep,
remember
yep. I
those?
have them all. I have them all.
Okay. I didn't have a chance to play Mutant Chronicles back then. It felt like it was very much going for the Hero Clicks crowd. And I'm
Mhm.
like, ugh, I'll just play I'll play Warzone that I've got. And I actually had Chronopia. In fact, I've still got
Oh,
some
really?
Chronopia figs. Yeah. I I I like Chronopia. I like Warzone. I bought Whole Hog into Heartbreaker miniature games because I thought they were a better alternative to the stupid Brit game everybody was into.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
something about it that I always thought its lore was so much more actually believable. I know that sounds weird or fishy in a
no,
sci-fi
no, it was
game.
a much better lore. The lore for 40K and for fantasy is steeped in a lot of crappy moral relativism, whereas the Mutant
Mhm.
Chronicles, like it felt like an actual person who had a girlfriend at one time. They wrote it, like somebody that knows what hope is. Like
Right.
he's had a blowjob, or he's actually kissed a girl. Unlike this
Right.
crap from
Never kissed a
40K.
girl. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Not only that, but with the structure of the corporations, that seems so much more believable as a potential like alternate future of Earth, or maybe even potential future of Earth that we could easily see, especially today. The countries becoming corporations, and the corporations then getting into space and then trying to take over the planets in our solar system until, of course, they get to Nero, and then they find the seals of the Dark Legion, and of course, being men, we break those seals and unleash our own doom upon us from the other side, the dark side, whatever you want to call it. And that's when the story really gets fun, because then you have the forces of darkness going after all the corporations while the corporations are still trying to figure out who they're going to ally with, who they're going to keep backstabbing or fighting with, whether it be Mishima and Capital on Mars or what have you. I forget exactly which planets each corporation was
Mishima
settled
was on Mercury.
on. Okay,
The Japanese conquered Mercury, and they were going after it whole hog. Bauhaus went over to Venus, and they terraformed it and made it to where it wasn't so stinking hot. Still a lot of sulfur in the air, which is why, like, whenever you were on Venus, like if you were 24 or older, oh, well, here's your negatives for your age, because you're not supposed to be here inhaling so much sulfur dioxide and
right.
other poisonous chemicals all the time. And then we had Luna, which was basically the Brotherhoods on the moon. They threw that atmospheric cloak around it, and then Mars was taken by Capital, the unification of what was in the 90s USA and Canada, but I could see nowadays being also part of Mexico, the North American conglomerate. And then the Imperials, they took the asteroid belt, and they were doing pretty good till they found this really weird asteroid that hey, we're going to call it Nero. I love it. I love Mutant Chronicles. That is such a well done system. Very good narrative setup. I read the 3 books that they released for it way back in the
paperback. Yeah, I have those too. Yeah, those were a lot of fun with Coral Beach, and each book had a different one of the main characters starred in it. I wasn't really a huge fan of Cybertronic, but I definitely respected him on the battlefield.
Yeah, they were good. And Warzone Cybertronic felt like it was almost pound for pound better than everybody else. And I'm not going to say they weren't, because Bauhaus had the best weapons, I thought, across the board.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
And Mishima were the best hand-to-hand fighters.
Yep.
And maybe paired off against Imperial. Each faction had its specialties and its things that it just excelled at, or at least was even with, and of course things that they weren't so great at. But all in all, any army could fight any other army at any given time, and it would be a fair fight because it was based on points. And if you picked a bunch of the wrong troops, well then you were going to have a rough game. But the all of the games, from the card game, the board game, the miniature game, the role-playing game, it all stayed legit, true to the lore. Everything and every game gave you new pieces of information and new ways to look at it. I knew players who would play one faction in the card game, but another faction on the miniature war game. When it came to the role-playing games, like you said, the life path system, similar to Traveler, but only having to do 2 years at a time instead of 4. And it was actually a better life path system than Traveler at the time. And not enough games really look at that concept of, making up a character and having them age through different experiences, etc., before actually starting to roll dice at the table with the other players. I always liken it to Star Wars. You can play a Luke Skywalker farm boy. You can play a relatively young Han Solo, but somewhat experienced, but not the farm boy. Or you can play someone like Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's been all over the galaxy, all over the place, is getting up there in years, but still has a lot to offer to a party without everybody having to be on that zero to hero path. You could start out characters who've seen quite a bit and still have room to grow, still be able to learn and get stuck into a pretty enjoyable adventure without feeling like, I need to retire, or this is too much for me, I'm not ready for it. Another thing I absolutely loved was the hit location mechanics, the body points, however you want to describe it, where each of your 10 locations, your head, your arms, your legs, different parts of your torso, would not only have an armor value but also have hit points depending on what was there, in the way of armor. If like you said, you weren't wearing a helmet and you got hit in the head, that could be it.
Yeah, you're probably gone.
Right, which is, again, really very realistic. That's the way it kind of should be. I get it, in a lot of games we got these hit points and you're fine until you lose that last hit point, then you fall over, because, that's the way it is. And I play dozens of games like that. But this game, I can't think of another game that went to that sort of grittiness and detail of, well, you got hit in the lung, or you got hit in the upper thigh, and now you got to play according to the damage you took, not just these arbitrary hit points. Well, I still have 30 hit points left. I'm fine.
No, no, no,
Kind of
no.
mentality.
You got hit in the lung. You're pretty much going to lay down for a while. You might get a forever box.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also the fact that the Heretic Handbook for Algaroth, and they had a little bit of it too in the Ilion. They had some really good character creation roles for the bad guys too, where you
Yes.
could make some believable bad guys. If your DM was into, like, after you kill off some major players in your campaign, the DM we had would often go into like their background and tell us the story of like what it led them to this point, and how they managed to become such a badass until they met us, and then we laid them low. And typically we would run with a what do they call the Brotherhood Paladins in that game?
The Mortificators were the assassins.
Not the Mortificators, the Paladins that would have like the Punisher pistol and the Punisher short sword.
The ones all in black.
Yeah.
Those are the Mortificators.
Those are Mortificators? Okay, my bad.
Yeah, they were the assassins. They were the Catholic Church secret ninja assassins.
Yes. And we would usually have one of those in our party, and then we'd have like this one guy who played this Valkyrie chick. He always wanted to play a blonde-haired, big titty girl. And then, you have one of those in every group, it seems like. And then we had Cecil, who he was this big Scotsman, and he always played the Brotherhood Paladin, basically the healer. But he also would carry a big freaking sword, and so that was
I think those are the Archangels, or were those the pilots? I think the Archangels were the pilots.
Archangels were the pilots.
Here, well, what the hell am I doing? I got the book right here.
Yeah, you but he loved playing those characters, and we would typically play. I was really hot on Chow Yun Fat at the time because there was a movie I discovered called The Hard Boiled, and I thought, man, what better way to go through life than 245s, one in each hand. And so I would play a Mishima character, and my friends were like, God, Bruce is going to play another freaking Chow Yun Fat ripoff. Oh boy.
Okay.
And it was just a lot of fun. We had a blast with that game, but we played probably about 3 years straight. The first 6 months was nightly.
I am incredibly jealous. You mean one of these guys, Bruce? In red?
Yes.
That would be the Fury Elite, Sacred Warrior Elite Guards. I was also a fan of the Inquisitors, which, nobody expects that. The Keepers of the Art were pretty. I mean, look at this. That's their magic abusers. The guy in blue.
Yeah. He looked like he was like contained.
It looked like a freaking Vorlon. It's like a freaking Vorlon. I'm just like, this was just. And my son, he took to he saw the Mortificator character for Siege of the Citadel, and is like, I'm painting that guy. Okay. You want to play him? Oh yeah, hell's yeah. The idea of throwing in then magic, because other members of the corporations could also, transfer over to the Brotherhood and join the church, and go on their holy crusades with all kinds of characters. As long as you weren't trying to run an evil heretic in the party, you were golden. Yeah, you're probably gonna see some shit, but it just had it all. It really did. And then when you talk about the Dark Legion, you could actually, like you said, play entire parties of
bad guys.
Heretics and the bad guys, heretics and apostates and just complete traitors to humanity, and see how long you could make that last. I've even got the comic books aplenty. I might even send you some extra comic books if you don't have them, because I bought tons of the comic books just to get the promo cards that were in there. because I could buy the comic book on eBay for like $2-3, tear it open, and then sell the card for $10. And I did that for a long time. I still this day I regret selling every card I ever sold, even though I made literally probably 10 grand doing it. I wish I still had all the cards. That way, my son and I, we could play, because you could play that card game 2 players on Sundays. My friends and I, we would play a game where each person would make a deck of each of the corporations. Someone would play Dark Legion and someone would play Brotherhood. That would be me. And we would just play that game until there was only one person left standing. And more often than not, that was me, because Brotherhood had magic and nobody else did. And that was kind of,
That's cheesy, but that works.
when you're playing against, what was it, 5, 6, total 8 players, making it that far, because, if you think they didn't, halfway through the game, all just decide, hey, we need to take the Brotherhood out, which would be foolish in any other situation. You take the Brotherhood out and you're kind of doomed.
Yeah, you really are. And in most narrative sense, it really, when the Brotherhood falls apart or falls off the game, the rest of the solar system is really axed. I mean, part of the lore of this game is the fact that humanity was pushed to the brink of destruction by the demonic invasion. Yep. And the thing that unified them was the Cardinal, who started having these like nightly fireside chats on AM radio on Luna. And when the demons came for Luna, like the Cardinal stood fast with the rest of humanity, and they all had a big scrum, and we were beaten down to like maybe 1/10 of our population, and the Cardinal was able to destroy Algaroth, who came for his soul, and they didn't really mess with humans for 1,000 years. And so when you read this, and if you've got any biblical scholar work, you're really like, hey, this kind of reads like Revelations. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It's kind of fun. And they actually made it just a really fun RPG out of it. And for 1,000 years, we had like no war. We had not a whole lot of conflicts, except for the ones we made ourselves. And then the greed and everything else just started happening again. And by this time, Luna,
that just fed the Dark Legion, all that darkness that they were itching for in the first place. Real quick, Michael, yeah, unfortunately, you probably were never going to see 20 separate injuries and survive. The game was pretty brutal. You had to really play smart. If you got injured, you weren't, unless you had a Brotherhood healer with you, which was really immensely rare compared to like Dungeons and Dragons, where you always have a cleric. Nobody wanted to be the healer because it just wasn't as fun as the old clerics. In a way, you had to really specialize and make that your life path. And if you were the healer, your character probably wasn't out there in combat. You could do some field medicry and get a couple points back, but for the most part, yeah, you really weren't going to get injured more than 2 or 3 times in the same location and still be a functional adventurer. It was just too brutal.
You'd have to accept the fact that you were either an amputee or maybe you had enough money to where you could buy a cybertronic limb. And there were cybernetics in the game. Like you could get like extra body points by taking a cybertronic spine.
Yep.
But you would end up like 4 inches shorter.
Right.
Because that thing was compressed.
Yeah. Or you could, go even further down that path, losing your humanity and, become, more and more machine than man. And, it would take a heavy toll on everything. It was, this game was definitely not for the faint of heart and not for the typical Dungeons and Dragons player, even Traveler players. would find this game pretty dark and brutal. With the way people have sort of gravitated toward that dark and gritty, it's a wonder this game wasn't at the top of the list and able to keep funding itself, in perpetuity. It really had that sort of specter hanging over its head, where every time it got great, I remember one time in Ireland, the factory literally like burned down or something like that, and
Yeah.
it was contaminating the meat packing facility next door, and it was literally like the Dark Cemetery was trying to keep this game from succeeding. Every time you turned around, it's like it's canceled.
Hey, Bo,
Stock
how you
up while
doing?
you can, because hey, Bo, I didn't see you come in. You
Yep.
want to join in? I will send you the link right freaking now, buddy.
Yeah, that was really weird about this, because every time you would hear about Heartbreaker Miniatures got a new lease on life, and they got a new contract. They got these people to make their miniatures for them over here. Like either the building would burn to a crisp or something negative, like the worst possible thing could happen. And I remember that, dude.
Yeah,
That was good.
like I said, they were just cursed. Even with the last Kickstarter, it went to a new company, Nova Res or something like that, and they just got the wrong idea how to put it out. The rule book itself was like $25, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll buy the new rule book because, oh, sorry, Bo. Well, we're gonna do another one, and you will definitely get the heads up that we've been trying to squeeze this in. Have you met Bo?
No, I've been in a chat with him before, but no, I've not
Oh,
met him.
Bo's a great guy. You got to meet him. He's a phenomenal guy. He's a regular of my Saturday night sci-fi chats, and right now he's working at the hospital. But I actually have some miniatures. Check this out. That were actually painted by Big Bob Watts, because Big Bob Watts was not just a fictional character. He was a real guy who worked on the design team of Doom Trooper, and I believe I can look it up, other products of theirs as well throughout the history of the game. I don't know what happened to him, because he was 20 plus years older than me, so there's a chance he's no longer with us. But if anybody out there knows, let me know if I can find a way to. I should just go on Facebook. He's probably there. But
Yeah.
I have a bunch of cartel agents that he painted personally, and they've only seen the light of day twice since I've had them, and once was to show them off on camera with my son when we were doing, I forget what. Oh, we were doing a Mars attacks sort of month of Martian sort of old school campy Mars attacks kind of stuff. Hey James, what's happening, buddy?
James L.
Another great guy out there, folks. Another regular of the Saturday night Shadow Chat. James has just recently discovered Mutant Chronicles, and he. What do you think, James? Mutant teams. He and Fritz and I have been talking about it for a while. It's just really one of the best games that came out of the '90s that I could think of. That was.
I'll agree with that. I actually will agree with that wholeheartedly, because it was a complete package. You had video games on the
Oh yeah, I
Sega
forgot about that.
Genesis and Super Nintendo. You had the card game, hot on the heels of Magic the Gathering. Then you had you had the board game Siege of the Citadel, and there was another one based on Venus, and I forget what the name of that.
Oh yeah,
one
yeah,
was.
yeah. There's I have That's the Blood Berets. I have that one.
Yes.
It's the other one, Fury of the Klansman. I don't
You're the
have.
Klansman is
Yeah,
third. Yeah,
and I
they
did
had
play the Sega Genesis game that was quite possibly the worst product of them all. They also had a computer game that I never got to get in
never,
on.
never got released.
Oh, it didn't.
Did not get released to my knowledge. They were working on a massively multiplayer game set in the Mutant Chronicles universe, and they asked a third time for funding because they got like $4 million out of it back in 1997.
Oh, really?
And this is a time where like Ultima Online was about as good as it got. They hadn't released Evercrack yet, and people were looking at this game like, I don't know if this is really what I want to get into. And the investors were about the same way, and so they had like a design team. They had a plan to take the game into the epic level stuff to where you could get really neat gear if you wanted to go to Mars and fight at the citadels. You know, here's this conveyor belt. This will lead us right where we need to go. Yeah.
Yeah, not exactly how that worked, but yeah.
No.
Real quick, we got a couple of questions. Bo, one, is the game available? Two, are there minis available? Yes and yes, but it is a bit of a scavenger hunt. Now, I know that Drive-Thru RPG has all of the new 2D20 available for like $10 for like 15 books of PDFs. There's that route, okay? Or you can go the old school route if you want the older game that's a little bit more less what's the word I want to use? It's a Modifius 2D20 game, so your characters are probably going to survive a lot easier in the Modifius version. And if you're cool with that and that's what you're looking for, definitely go check out the Modifius PDFs, because I mean it's a crap ton of books and lore and info. And I'm starting to read. I only have 3 of the Modifius books, and there's a lot of lore that's new, but apparently okayed by the people who make such rules for the IP. And what I'm reading is very interesting. Now the miniatures, you really need to do a little homework and decide what kind of characters or army. If you're looking at the war game, that's available, and I can help you. With the versions of what's the best version. There is one book called Ultimate Warzone that you could probably pick up for about $25, maybe more. But that's got everything you'll ever need to know to play the war game. 2 players or more with, all the rules, all the different special abilities, all the vehicles and machines and all that cool stuff. It's kind of like the Rogue Trader of Warzone. It's everything in one book. And then you just hunt down the miniatures, and the miniatures are still about $5 to $10 for metal miniatures of each individual troop.
Right here.
Sometimes they're 2 packs. Sometimes there's 4 packs of a squad, and then you just need to buy the squad leader. But you really gotta, kind of do the eBay search and slowly build up your figs. Or you can do what James L. suggested, is going to, what did he say?
Xenos Rampant. Sounds like Inquisitor or some sort of Inquisitor style army for Warhammer.
No, I was talking about, he said alternative armies makes the miniatures that will definitely get you going. As a matter of fact, that's actually a really good idea. If you can go through the catalog of alternative and go, there's this character, there's that character. I actually have sealed packages of almost every original Warzone miniature, and I have all the Siege of the Citadel miniatures, so I can mix plastic and metal and go that route. There are some box sets of miniatures that are kind of spendy because of the box sets, which is really kind of dumb because 5 miniatures in a box set or 10 miniatures in a box set, but they want $100. But if you scrounge around and find the miniatures in 1 and 2 packs, you're looking at, like half the price. Obviously, going to pay a little bit more in shipping, unless you find them all in the same location. But
Shadow, have you looked at the Thingiverse yet or no?
yeah, I've been looking at Thingiverse and Etsy. My only problem is that I hate resin. I absolutely despise it. Right now, I'm waiting for it to get a little stronger, a little more durable, so that if I drop it, it doesn't shatter. And if I hold it in my hand too long, because I don't use those fancy holding tools, I had some resin miniatures literally start to bend and melt from the body heat, like M&Ms, and I wasn't a
Yeah,
big fan of that. Um, and I like metal. I got started with lead back in the day of lead, and I still have, I could literally play almost, I'm not going to say almost any army, because there's a bunch of miniatures I'm still looking for, but I could play some pretty decent games with my boy with the miniatures I have. But I'm still going to go out and hunt some stuff down, but it's probably not going to be until way later next year
the
when we get to it.
the what was the name of the like the big demon for every army? Not Ilion or Algaroth, but like they would have like their
The
like
Apostles.
yeah the not the apostles, but they would have like a Necroth or something. Ilion had this demon,
Nephrite.
the
Nephrites.
Nephrites,
Yes.
and the Nephrite that she had, like Algaroth would probably have a Nephrite that would just pummel you to death, like a
Yep.
cyber demon in Doom.
Yep.
Ilion wouldn't do that. Ilion enjoyed like the eternal chase, and so her
Yeah.
Nephrite would
She was,
wrap
she was
her.
like she was like the Tzeentch or the spellcaster of them all.
Yes,
They all had their own little sphere. And Bo, people love this game in Europe. This is one of the most long-lived, most popular war games in Europe to this day, especially in places like Italy and Germany.
I would
But
say
yeah,
this game is as popular for war gamers as Arduin is for long-term RPGers.
yeah, maybe. Um, it's a little bit more widely known than Arduin, to be honest. So there's that. But yeah, it's like he was talking about the Nephrites, kind of like the Demon Lords in 40K. The Nephrites each had their specialty. One was the guy of pestilence. One
Yep.
was Algaroth was war. They were kind of like the four horsemen, except with a little bit different. A couple of them had a little bit different turns. There wasn't famine, but there was disease. There was war, and then there was magic, or they called it the dark symmetry. Same difference, but yeah, Ilion was this just Morgan Le Fay sort of mutated, just evil ass bitch from hell that would just mind rape you into submission. Right, right, James with the dip. Got a shadow age present. Now, don't get me wrong. If I could pull some stuff that was a little stronger than what I was used to. Now, mind you, I know that maybe what I got was a bad experience from a particular company that makes one of my favorite games that you can see the boxes all up there. And I got some cowgirl miniatures that were just spindly as hell. So I could see why they maybe, you know, were kind of flimsy. And I've seen some stuff, and I actually have some resin miniatures on the way. That the next level miniatures Kickstarter, which nets you 150 miniatures, including an Orcus and a giant red dragon for $100, is on the way. So I'm willing to take a chance. It's just that's something I felt safer with because it's a Kickstarter and it's a big company, not like an individual where you have to kind of deal with them on a one-to-one basis. Where when it's a big sort of Kickstarter company, you can kind of you know get a little bit better customer service. And like I said, I've been looking on Etsy for sailing ships and other things for other games, and the stuff I'm seeing on online from 3D printers just it makes it hard to not want to jump in whole hog and just start, buying 28 millimeter sailing ships and tanks and things for games I don't even own. It's just like, oh my God, I just want to paint that. There's just absolutely.
I know that feeling. God, I know that feeling. I'm in and out since I'm still busy at work. This game piques my curiosity, says Bo.
Yeah, I will see what I can do because another friend of ours is going to sell me his collection of the old books that I'm willing to help other gamers out with. He just wants to get rid of them, and I want them to go to a good home. And I'd rather them go to my home and then to somebody else's home, even if it costs me a little in shipping to help a brother out. Because this game, whether I'm playing the role playing game, the board game, the war game, the card game, it really doesn't matter. I would happily sell a lot of things that I own to trade to finish up this collection and like toss out other collections that I'm only hanging on to for nostalgia and posterity and things like that. I'd rather have the full catalog of Mutant Chronicles and know that other friends of mine are because all you need are one set of the books and you can share it with your bros and bring your friends into the table and go, look, we're going to try this out. You don't like it, okay, but hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Some people hate dip. That's what he's talking about. I've never used dip, so I don't have an actual opinion yet. James, I've read a lot of different stories of just dunking the miniatures in the old dips, and if you're doing an army, cool, especially like a fantasy army. But this is like painting stormtrooper armies. They all need to be like shiny and bright and colorful until you get to the feet, and then the feet can be stepping in mud and grass and sand and junk like that. But the upper portions, they got to look like they just came off the showroom floor because they're wearing this Space Marine gigantic shoulder padded armor. Hey, Bob Watts,
Is that your guy?
CEO, I believe so.
Transatlantic Games. He's in Philadelphia.
Okay, I will check out whatever he's working on. And this had great artists like Paul Bonner and who was the other one? Oh God, I can't remember his name. Who was not only a phenomenal painter, but he was a phenomenal sculptor as well. He went on to do a lot of the hero clicks in the early days of clicks and all kinds of other stuff.
He doesn't seem like a bad guy. I mean, he did beep Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro for 2 years from 99 to 01. Then he went over to Sabretooth Games from 2003 to 2005. He was CEO of Privateer Press from 19 to 20. And now he's the president of Cerebus Entertainment and the CEO of Transatlantic Games. On his activity, it looks like he's talking about going back to conventions and doing Runestone. You familiar with the game Runestone?
Not at all.
All right. Well, that's what I just found that out. Like, all right, whatever. But he was Target Games and Heartbreaker Hobbies president from 91 to 98. Stockholm, Sweden, and Greater Philadelphia area. It's pretty cool. James, I was like, yeah, he looks pretty convincing. Voltrons.
Here's the thing, though. I honestly thought he was a black guy.
Yeah.
Big Bob Watts, the character, is a big black guy.
It's Michael Clark Duncan. They looked at Michael Clark Duncan like, no, make him look like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
which can't blame me for thinking that, but it doesn't matter. I'm not like, oh, thank God he's a white guy. No, don't care. As long as the guy's still alive, you know what I mean? Uh, as long as the guy's still alive making cool games, that's what's on my mind. I'm like, cool. The guy's alive. I can say, hey, dude, you remember these? Yeah, they're mine now. And they're not leaving my collection, and they probably won't see the light of day until maybe I'll show them off on camera next time we do one of these Mutant Chronicles chats. Because I want to keep this going at least until we get tired of it, um, or it starts getting in the way of Max's doing the 2D20 version, which I have to admit the 2D20 of Mutant Chronicles and trust me, this is hard for me to say. I'm more inclined to want to play that than I would even want to play John Carter 2D20. And you guys, if you guys know me, John Carter is like one of my top 3 favorite IPs of all time when it comes to, science fantasy, or science fiction or whatever you want to classify it as. Don't freaking care about the labels, just care about the author and the stories. John Carter is like, I for decades, I was like the only person I knew who knew anything about John Carter. When I was a 10-year-old little boy, I discovered John Carter before I discovered Star Wars. And I think Conan, like the same year, 77 was such a beautiful year. You had John Carter, you had Conan #1, and John Carter #1. You had Star Wars, but you also had freaking Micronauts. Okay.
Yep.
And if that doesn't just like suck you back to your childhood, then you're either younger than me by a couple of decades, or you just you have no soul, because you can ask my boy. He still thinks Micronauts were the greatest action figures of all time, and he's played with just about everything as a kid. But they were the shit. They were just the absolute greatest. And so 1977 was just a wonderful year. But to be able to say that I would play Mutant Chronicles 2D20 over all the other 2D20 games, even Conan, even John Carter. What's the other one? Star Trek. Not that big Star Trek fan, so that's not a big surprise. I love Star Trek, but I've never been able to play a Star Trek game that I enjoyed as much as I would rather just watch some good old fashioned, original series or Enterprise. So,
See, I'm a fan of Cisco, so I can handle DS9. And Michael Clark Duncan was a good actor. He seemed like a good guy too.
oh sure. I just I think my problem with Deep Space was that I was too much into Babylon 5. If that makes any sense, they were like too kind of like trying to occupy the same space in my thinking meat.
Well, I think Babylon 5 is what kind
You
of
had, Dave. You had. You're just holding on to those for me now at this point.
Babylon 5 felt like it was the reason why DS9 came about, because there was not a whole lot of Star Trek that could compete with Michael Straczynski. JMS was just a fucking powerhouse in the 90s.
Yep, and he did a lot of good work elsewhere besides just his own thing. He wrote for Spider-Man for a long time, just all kinds of crazy crap that I didn't realize. I've actually got his autograph on a copy of The Gathering.
No, I'm going to tell you something that you'll laugh about, but he wrote and he scripted my favorite childhood TV show that came out in like 1987, 1988, around the same time where Marshall Bravestar was getting big and popular. The laser tag had came out the year before. And so all the toys were using like laser. They were using laser technology, right? Or some sort of light technology. So first you had photon and laser tag, and then you had Bravestar, and then you had Captain Power. And Captain Power was weird because you would get these ships that you would put these almost He-Man sized action figures in. But the ships, when you would hold them, they had a trigger grip on the bottom, and you would sight down the right fuselage of the ship
Uh-huh.
whenever you're watching Captain Power, and 2 minutes of every episode of Captain Power was a battle where the good guys were shooting at the bad guys, and you could shoot at the bad guys, but the bad guys would also shoot at you. And if you recorded it on your beta or VHS, it would record the signals that they would shoot out, so you would like know where not to position your ship whenever you tried going through the battle again. Because if you only had like 5 health on your ship, and if you lost all your health, the ship would literally eject your pilot out. Whoop. And it was cool. But JMS was part of the design team or the script writers for Captain Power. And Captain Power was just such a real fun, it was a good TV show, very well written, good sci-fi. And it was scary for being a kids show. Like it was
Mhm.
actually really aimed at adults, and it did one of the few things I've ever seen, and it was the only kids show I ever saw where they killed off a main character as a cliffhanger at the end of season 1. The young girl that was on Armageddon, she was a space shuttle pilot, the blonde.
Really?
She was on Captain Power when she was like 23 years old and just fresh looking. And they killed her character off at the end of the season 1. One of the other characters on that show is none other than Sven Thorson, the bodybuilder who used to work out with Arnold all the time. You'll know him if you don't know who I'm talking about, then you'll know him whenever you see him because he's been in all these Arnold movies. Yeah, he was the security guard and Running Man and a bunch of other Arnold films. He was in Predator. He had 2 roles in Predator. He was one of the main bad guys that got hit in the chest with a knife and pinned against a pillar. Stick around. And then he
I
was
missed
also
all that Captain Power stuff. All of it.
Captain Power was dystopian nightmare fuel. Yeah, the machines took over the planet. They would find enclaves of humans and digitize them. And whenever they would reanimate or bring the corpses back, the people had lost their luster for life. It's like their soul had been removed. And it was just the most miserable, depressing show, but it was so well done. And
Wow, I'm going to have to look into that. And yes, Mar, Bester was a million times better than Chekhov. Bester
yeah,
was like, I have never loved hating a character more in my life, and just enjoyed every second of it. He was he literally stole the show whenever he was on. I don't know how they did it and how he missed his calling. And I did get a chance to meet him, and I think I have an autographed copy of his #1 comic book that he wrote called Raver. Probably nobody remembers that, but and it was awful. But he just stole the freaking show. Now I got to look up Captain Power. So
yeah,
now I got homework.
Captain Power was badass. It had a really good set of toys. They had like 3 or 4 ships that were available.
I remember the toys, but I was, kind of not really shopping for toys at the time.
No, you're in your 20s probably.
Uh, yeah, probably. Because I did go to Toys R Us's at that time, but I was usually buying video games, or I'd go down the Lego aisle, to see what was going on there. Because I mean, Legos were, and still are the shit. They are one of the greatest toys. If you guys have kids out there, that's the first toy you buy your kids as soon as they're not going to eat them. Jackie was playing with Legos at about a year and a half, and that occupied a good 9 years of his life as a kid. And I chalk it up to being why his brain works the way it does is because he had that sort of hardcore problem solving skills developed at a really early age.
Legos are as expensive now as HO scale trains were back in the 90s. And don't even talk to me about fucking Lionel.
Yeah, I did trains too as a kid. I actually had some antique trains. Whatever one of the biggest scales was, I managed to pick some up from this weird shop across the street from my house that only lasted about a year. It was like a permanent garage sale store, but it was like a cross between that and a thrift store and an antique store. And oh man, I had a lot of fun with model trains when I was very very young, and um, it got me into the other hobbies. That being, like we were talking earlier with James, the Airfix miniatures and making up war games with my old man, and eventually going into model airplanes, eventually going into lead miniatures, that eventually led to Dungeons and Dragons, and the rest is, as they say, history.
Yeah.
Yeah, Legos are expensive, but the trick is you buy a set, you keep the box, you keep the instructions, and you keep them all together for your kids. And I kid you not, my son has the box for every single Lego set he ever bought or was given, and probably has 99% of all the pieces. Nothing ever got lost. It was just, so if someday he wants to sell them as antiques or something, he will be able to put himself through college. Because if you put the sets together and you've got all the original stuff, there are collectors out there that will pay, you know, 4 times the original price. Mind you, with inflation, that doesn't mean a lot, but you guys get what I'm trying to say.
All the other instructions are in the UI with the one you bought, so kiddo immediately wants 10 more. It's very shady. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, you got to expect stuff like that's uh, gonna happen. Yeah, I actually used. I think it was an N scale, James. I think it was an N scale train set, sort of a futuristic, bullet train that I would set up on my Warhammer, my Epic Space Marine game tables. So it would be running around the battlefield as we were playing, Space Marines, and then the train would come by and just, keep rolling around the battlefield. It was. I tried to incorporate all that stuff at some point.
My dad never tore down the HO scale train set that we built when I was 14 because we tore down the one we had before that, and then we built around the room dog bone. We never finished
Really.
the scenery. Yeah, it was literally around the room, 3 walls around the room, and then you had at the very end there was like a 36-inch diameter turn, or go back and loop on itself.
That's freaking amazing.
And we never tore that down. That just turned into a shelf for all of his other projects. And then he got into Lionel and he tore down the scenery and the stuff in the room adjacent to that to the furnace room. And he's got a pretty big Lionel set there. And Menards is where he works at. So they gave like a full page of the stuff he's doing because the CEO of Menards is a big Lionel guy. And so every year at Christmas, they stock up on Lionel train sets all across Menards across the country. And so my dad was looking at the freaking flyer for Menards Home Improvement, and he started noticing that the doors are at 1/43rd scale in the flyer. Like your home doors, the doors that they sell, for like $700. They have an advert in the Sunday periodical that the doors are set for 1/43rd. So my dad was clipping the doors out of the newspaper and affixing them to the doors on his Lionel train set.
Wow.
And then he realized a bunch of other stuff is almost sized for Lionel scale. And so he's like, I didn't realize how much of a fucking, not, he didn't say fucking, but I didn't realize how much of a fucking nerd the CEO of Menards Home Improvement is. But everything he's got in his flyers you could almost clip it out and use it on your layout. You have a drywall setup on your layout. You can clip out the drywall and affix that as a sticker on your scenery. So if you've got like a warehouse or home improvement spot on your train layout, you can have like authentic looking drywall there. And so he got a full page in the company periodical, and they put it up on their website. Pretty cool stuff. That just happened about 6 weeks ago. But yeah, model trains is where I developed a love for this stuff at. I just wish I was a better painter.
And now they want to, the powers that be, of course, want to put us in the pods and feed us bugs and keep all that crap for themselves.
They couldn't use it all. First off, hey Paradox guy.
Long time to see, buddy.
The thing is that they're not going to be able to use this stuff. This world isn't meant for 5% of the world to use. It's meant for everybody. It's meant to actually be optimized by more people. But the powers, the wizards that be, they don't want that. They're scared of that. They're scared of guys like you, Shadow.
They kind of should be. I'm not going down that path. All I wanted was to just be, kind of left alone. I mean, left alone with.
Oh, that's all we asked for. You just want to be left alone.
Let us enjoy our geeky hobbies, and pass them on to our children, and keep these wonderful things alive, and not spend all our time, looking at our phone or a tablet. I mean, I'm kind of already there. I have my tablet on all day long on YouTube or other things, but I don't, it's not in my hand. I'm doing other stuff,
Yeah.
But it's amazing, whenever I go out into the real world, everybody else is so focused on their phone. And I'm just like, I don't even take mine with me 90% of the time, unless, I go with the family, and then, we all end up going off in different directions. So we need something to, hey, let's meet up at, register number 18 and get the hell out of here.
I get you. I was over at Lowe's Home Improvement 2 days ago because my boss sent me there. Muriatic acid. Got to go for muriatic acid. Okay, whatever. And as I'm waiting in line, the two people in front of me aren't even paying attention to the cash lady, but they're staring at their phones. We're in public. Why are we staring at our phones in public? I mean, I'm trying to get done with this stuff.
Oh, hey. Another one of our good friends, R. Keith, just joined the show. Glad you could make it. We're talking Mutant Chronicles. Actually, right now we're talking trains, but that's where it got started, was Mutant Chronicles. And we're just diverging from that topic.
That just kind of happened.
But R. Keith is a great guy. Met him through Nathan Allen a couple weeks back, and I've been watching his show. He's kind of a all-around great guy. Talks about all kinds of stuff. I don't know if I could do the airbrush on my trains and weather them up unless I had like extras, and I wanted to make one all beat up and one pristine, because I don't know if I could do that. I don't know, man. That's like, it almost seems like sacrilege, but I totally get it if you're doing like a period piece, or if you're, doing like a sort of like a country setting where, everything should be kind of dusty and weathered, but not all graffitied up. Oh, I'd hate to see that shit, because I literally see that shit all the time. Excuse my French. But whenever the train goes by, it's more graffiti than anything else now.
Shadow, how many times did you get a chance to actually play in a Mutant Chronicles game?
I want to say about 6 different campaigns, and they were all relatively short-lived. and I never got to play, and I never even read the Venusian Apocalypse. I have it right here, brand new, never read it. Um, and I was going to grill you on it before I read it. I don't know if you got time to talk about it now, or you want to wait till next time,
Um,
because
I I only played through the first adventure module,
oh
and then we
really?
had a TPK. So I don't
Hmm.
even know if Denny ran it right according to the module. I just know that whenever he would run a game, typically we die, and that
Agreed,
that
bro.
was
Agreed.
that was pretty much how that worked for us. We would say, yeah, we'll play this module, and then we'd help him buy the module, and then he'd look at it for about 2 weeks. We'd start to play it, and then half the party would die. And the thing is that game really, like, if you had low rolling d20s, if your dice rolled low,
Uh-huh.
you would be in heaven with this game. Uh, my dice never worked well for me for this game. They would always roll like shit for D&D. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Well, we'll just play Mutant Chronicles next week, and I'll actually be able to do something. No, they'd be rolling nat 20s, nat 19s next week for Mutant Chronicles.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know, Paradox guy. I could actually see that because I do some gas lands, and I could see doing that, but I would want to have like I said, you know, duplicates so I could keep some pristine, or save them for later if I was going to do something like that, because that does kind of sound fun to like throw some machine gun nests on some of the cars and things like that. That does kind of get my Gaslands thing kind of interested.
You're the only person I know that talks about Gasland still.
Oh, one of my good friends over in Ireland, Armstrong from Mad Eye Miniatures. That's all he does. He makes at least one or two videos every week, just chilling, taking a car and turning it into something completely brand new. And I've yet to play the game. He sent me a bunch of templates, and my son and I actually participated in his craft challenge. And the little guy won. He won like first or second place. And some of these cars up here on the shelf here are custom made by Armstrong, and we've got a couple of ours up there, our own creations. And it was one of the games we were going to try and play this vacation, but that's just not working out the way I thought it would. The little guy's got uh, side projects, and then in a couple of days, his best friend is coming out to visit from North Carolina. They haven't seen each other in about 4 or 5 months, so it's just and they're gonna be spending like a week to 10 days here at the house. So it's gonna be nothing but them two just jibber jabbering, So any chance of gaming I had with my son, I gotta squeeze it in the next 2.5 days, or I won't get another chance until summer probably to
If
play any.
what if I were you? I mean, if I had a young boy like Jack and his best friend coming into town, I'd be getting my game ready for those two to play. I'd be getting I'd be doing something game related with. I got two young kids in the house. Oh no, we're playing. We're gonna spend at least one day playing this game. You
Well, the
know,
only unfortunate fact of the matter with that, I thought about that, but the mom and the daughter are also going to be here.
oh,
Yeah, so um,
oh wait,
we'll probably end up playing some video games together, but anything else might, not go over well, because I kind of gotta, keep them entertained as well, or at least, ignore all of them equally, if you know what I mean. So
yeah.
we'll see. I'm going to try and get them to play some Hero Quest, maybe. That's a game that all three of the kids and myself could play, and it not be too weird, too nerdy, that kind of thing. Um,
I would definitely feed into that monster and definitely go for the games because I don't want to have kids come out, and all right, you're going to be hanging with my family, but instead of you hanging, it's just you and like said child staring at your phones, trading memes all day. You could have done this cross country. No, no, you're going to play games, damn it, or we're going to go outside and do something outside. Like you live in California, so there might be, like a park nearby or something to do out there, that doesn't involve staring at phones or tablets.
Yeah, I
No
know.
offense to phones or tablets, but that was when we were growing up, Shadow, like the hobby was something that was a nighttime thing. The basement with the train set was a nighttime thing. Uh, if the sun was out, I was either going to be on my bike or I was going to be outside screwing around the yard doing something outside-ish,
Hmm.
And I
Yeah, we're gonna probably, we the kids and I always, whenever we're together, we usually play the PlayStation 4 Gauntlet together. That's something we can do. That nobody seems to have a problem with, but I can't have the mom just sitting around the house complaining she's bored or you know that kind of thing. I kind of got to, have conversations with her, I guess. I'm really not sure how that's supposed to work because we never have house guests that aren't family, in which case I just come up here and do my thing and they do their thing downstairs. I'll see
wait, is
about,
she a friend of your wife?
yeah,
She's a friend of your wife.
right.
So there's not going to be any worry about that. Like, oh, if she's bored, go deal with wife. You two go do something.
Well, yeah, but then, right. But during the day when my wife's at work,
Oh,
yeah, and that's like 10 hours,
I
so
thought your wife was work from home or didn't have a job. No offense,
no, no,
but
no. She was working from home during the thing, but now she's back to work and gets home at about 5.
okay.
So yeah, it's. But I mean, they're probably going to borrow or rent a car, so there's going to be some time that they won't be here. But it's still up in the air. They're not even getting here till the 26th, which is weird. Um, yeah, James, you're such a naughty, naughty boy. But I am going to try and invite at least the kids to play a board game or something or two while they're here, because I don't want them all just sitting around on electronic devices, and they probably never played a board game in their freaking life. Oh, I love Dark Legacy. I'm trying to get an Xbox just to play it, but we're playing the PlayStation 4 Gauntlet, which it's kind of fun. I'm not going to lie, but Jackie's friend, he plays the elf, so the elf just runs around stealing all the gold and then making us look bad in combat.
Is this the same gauntlet that came out in 2012?
Possibly, it's new-ish, but
Like the wizard that I play, usually he has like if he's got a fire set up, he's got the fireball, the little Zot fireball, almost magic missile. Then he's got like a fire mortar, and then he's
right.
got a teleporting, twisting fire that he can do, and he goes
Yeah,
from
I
one
think
side
that's
to the
exactly
other.
the game.
Okay, so that's the same game I play. Yeah, I've got that. I've never beat it, but it's fun. I've been actually playing through Doom lately, and I feel pretty happy because I'm like halfway through the Doom 2016. Been playing it on hard difficulty, so I'm feeling rather, yay, I can do stuff. I don't know, Mutant Chronicles, it that was a game that, like, when it came out, it just hit at the right time because you had any way you wanted to play it, you could play it. If you wanted to play card games, you could play card games. If you want to play board game, that was like, Hero Quest. You got it. But if you wanted to play a campaign, Mutant Chronicles was this amazing game that we only played it once as heretics, but we went along with one of the ideas in the Algaroth handbook where you were supposed to be playing bad guys. And the more we were doing, the more logical it was for us to not be bad guys anymore. The problem
Yep.
is that everybody else is treating us like bad guys. Other crime families are in the area, and law enforcement was getting really adept at some of the things we were doing, and so we were getting squeezed pretty hard. And eventually, we tried going to the local brotherhood, and the tip line. Well, they didn't tell you that the tip line for the brotherhood also includes an exorcism, which involves a bullet to your head. And so we were being chased by everybody. We had the one character that was in our own family that was a heretic. We had, and he was trying to kill us off. And then we had a couple other crime families that were trying to wax us out. And then, of all freaking things, like one of the families had like funding or support from Bauhaus. So they had really good guns. Wasn't fun at all. It was not fun. And it was a great campaign, but that campaign died in the bloody TPK I've ever experienced. And it lasted us about 8 months, which was a long-term game. We played it weekly. And I would recommend anybody that's never played an evil campaign to go about making a organized crime campaign in Mutant Chronicles and just seeing how long it lasts. Bo says, I want to start Arduin when I win the books at the 500 subscriber giveaway. Ooh.
Yeah, it's one of the many prizes that Emperor's Choice sent us to give away. It's it's got kind of a cross between a BX, AD&D, and something a little darker, mixed in with a lot of just absolutely crazy monsters and spells. It was really its own thing after it stopped trying to be a supplement to D&D. And it's going to be coming out in a brand new format in about a year. And then it will be the game that it the best game it could be, because a lot of the older books are just patchwork of rules written by a genius, but without a lot of
organization.
Yeah, it's really a jumbled up mess. The hardcover book that I will be giving out is a great way to start into it, because it was reorganized and made easier to understand, better printing, etc. But it's really there just to give you an idea of the way it was, and where it's going is vastly different. It's still going to have the dark themes like slavery and things like that it was always famous for, and the crazy monster selection and magic items, and yes I did. And it was the originator of the critical hit and fumble tables. They first appeared in Arduin, and from that point on, there's so many innovations that David A. Hargrave started, and unfortunately he died really young, and people thought his works were lost to the annals of time, but lo and behold, Emperor's Choice has tens of thousands of pages of his work and his artwork and all this stuff ready to come out and just hit us like a Mack truck. That should kind of really irritate a lot of people out there, I'm hoping. And for guys like us, tickle us to death.
While you've got the family there, the family from out of town,
Yeah.
do some pre-gens for your first edition or BX game. First edition, probably what you want to do, and run them through Kill Bargle. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Not sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna run it past them. See what they have planned. At the very least, I was just hoping to get in some board games, or maybe some Aeronauticus or Ogre or something like that. Simple 1 hour, board gamey, semi war gamey type of stuff. Uh, just so I can say, hey, we played some games during the vacation. I don't want to take up the little guy's all his time. He's working on a project right now that he's writing creatively, and I don't want to get in the way of that. And if I can help him with editing and questions and stuff like that, that's cool. I'm trying not to be selfish and it's like, hey, I want to play this or that. You do what you got to do. I've got literally 10,000 miniatures that are looking at me, with no paint on them. So it's not like I don't have stuff to keep me busy and that sort of thing. It just, he's getting older. He's, looking at girls and, won't be long before he's off to the Air Force. And, I won't see him in person, for months on end. And, then he'll, be off on his own life and stuff. And, I want to just, get as much out of the next
So he's
3
definitely going to the Air Force.
Probably.
All right. Well, then that will probably be the time when you and I meet up for the first time, bro.
We'll see. We might get the heck out of here before then. I just want him to get the easiest next ranks he can get, so that if he transfers to a new school in a new state, he can go in and go, look, I'm a lieutenant, blah blah blah, and keep it and move on from there and keep doing what he's doing, so that he doesn't lose any rank. And to be honest, we're in a smaller area, so it's easier for him to get to where he's gotten. But once he gets into a bigger school, that'll be a little bit, there's going to be more competition. And especially since we live in California, there's like no competition. He's still doing all the things you're supposed to do to earn the ranks, but there aren't a lot of people, to choose from.
Well, yeah, because California, that's an activist state. They want people to protest against law and order.
Right, exactly.
Did I say that aloud? My bad. I'm sorry. The quiet part was out loud again, folks.
Do not apologize, because you are 100% accurate. It's I've seen the get-togethers, and and there's a lot of that here. Fortunately, we do live in a nice peaceful area where there are more seniors than children. So there's a lot of like-minded individuals here. Keith, the more we talk, the more we got in common. I'm a huge fan of Ogre and GEV. I've got the original little plastic envelope versions of those games still, with the uncut counters and the little map and the thing you could put in your back pocket and take to the school lunchroom back in the day. I loved all those little pocket games or mini games, or no, I think they were called micro games back in the day. There's only a couple I'm missing. Chitin and I think Kung Fu 2020 or something like that, the Steve Jackson games before he went all freaking bonkers on us.
I played Ogre on a Commodore 64.
Yeah, so did I. You know how you beat it, right?
I never beat it against Ogre. I beat it as Ogre.
Oh, see, to beat the Ogre, it's really simple. I figured it out. You buy nothing but howitzers, and you place them all the same distance away from each other around the outside perimeter of the map.
Okay.
And you aim at the treads. Once the treads are gone, because you can't decide which howitzer to go after because they could all hit the ogre.
Not bad.
And once I figured that out, I literally didn't play it anymore because it was like, well, crap, I could try to figure out other ways to do it, but I got the impression that was like, kind of it. Munchkin is good. I've never played it. I used to play Car Wars a lot. I still have all the original Car Wars. But some of the games I want to play are like those little mini pocket games. There's one called Sticks and Stones where you're literally cavemen fighting, other cavemen and saber-toothed tigers and crap like that. Exactly.
Keith Andrews has got a cousin that wrote Harn.
That's amazing.
I've got a lot of Harn on this computer, and I really like Harn. I know a lot of people don't because it's a very complex game, and there's some stuff that people just they don't want to deal with because it focuses on things that a lot of older gamers would love to have in their game, but younger gamers want to know where the bad guys are, and they stock a dungeon and they go kill things. Harn is one of the better games out there, and Columbia, you don't even have to play Harn. You can just use the supplements for that for whatever game you're using, because the quality will translate through. The narrative in this stuff, the quality of the NPCs that they write is just above and beyond what 99% of all their companies fail to do. They are amazing. Columbia Games is just freaking great. They are crack. They are gamers crack. I'll just say that. Fantasy gamers crack, I'll say. Because sci-fi people won't probably enjoy Harn. I want to go faster than light. Yeah, you've got a donkey.
I remember growing up as a kid seeing ads for Harn in Dragon Magazine all the freaking time and loving the artwork and the images for the ads, and just never was able to find it at my local game stores.
Harn is a really well done game. It's probably like whenever somebody says they like Harn, that's probably code for you should be friends with this person, because they have a better appreciation for the games that you want to play. You guys might not ever play Harn together, but you'll probably play off your shelves. You'll probably get together and do things with that person. Use a lightning bolt for high-speed travel. Yeah, if you're a wizard. Wasn't exactly a wizard-friendly game either.
What game would you compare it to give me an idea of what it was all about?
The rule system, I compare Harn to MERP or to Rollmaster.
Gotcha.
But it's more elegant than that.
Okay.
Harn, that's just the quickest. Here, use this. If you don't want to play that was typically the one that people would use because the NPCs would transfer over to MERP or to Rollmaster really well. They don't transfer so great to AD&D Second Ed, but they transferred pretty good to BECME.
Gotcha.
I just like one of these days I'll do a stream and I'll just talk about the stuff I've got for Harn, because I'm going to be doing a stream here before too long about things not Dungeons and Delvers, because a lot of people are like, that you're really beating this one into the ground. You like Dungeons and Delvers, that's cool. And whenever I talk about D&D or Dungeons and Delvers, people are like, wow, yeah, I didn't realize that he wrote this. It's 519 pages for his hardcover. There's a lot of stuff in there. You'll probably like it. But I want to talk about some other stuff because there's some things that I want to talk about that I don't really like. And I just read through one of them for Paizo. Paizo wrote a super dungeon called the Emerald Spire, which is the worst conceived adventure campaign I've ever looked at and read. And I feel like I'm owed money for reading through it. So I'll try to monetize it and see how that gets me.
Gotcha.
It was painful to read because you remember playing like an older fantasy game where you have a dungeon and it's mapped out. Hey, Hungar, it's
What's
mapped
happening,
out. And
buddy?
like a third of the rooms were actually inhabited. The other 2/3 of the rooms were not. Right?
Like Arduin.
Yeah. Well, this isn't like that. Paizo said we don't want to have any empty rooms in our dungeons. And so in any adventure they've got and anything they've written, everything Paizo put down has occupied dungeon rooms, or there's a reason there's a room there, and it's to further the campaign. It's not there for the DM to throw in what you want or to keep it empty as it's statted in the book. They have a book. I'll just go get you this. You got to see this shit. Like this is just a page out of one of the dungeons, but all of these are occupied with bad guy. Insert bad guy here or insert trap here. There's not a whole lot of space there. The same with this crap. Like it's all crammed together. Dungeon walls are 6 inches thick. It's just crap, you know. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not well designed. It's not like this, you know. It's not like with Starship Warden where when they give you a map, like you have expanses, you have places where you're going to be walking for a while before you encounter something new, you know. And it's just frustrating because I can't believe that Paizo tried to redo the entire industry and make it to where like every room there's something for you to do. No, there's not. Sometimes this room disconnects to 6 other rooms that you have to walk through before you get to something that might actually matter to what you're doing.
Yeah, to lull you into that sort of false sense of security, and then suddenly, there's something, or it's a red herring, or it's a clue that you just get bored with it and pass up. The way things really would be, especially, in the old days, like B1, that was like kind of where it started. Every square of the grid paper had to be, something there. The walls were, there were more open spaces than black spaces, which is the way it would be. When you go underground, you need a lot of freaking rock to hold up everything that's above you. Otherwise, it all comes crashing down with the slightest little, tremor. And they just didn't think about that. They just wanted to, back in the old days, graph paper was like gold. You had to go far and wide to find a pad of it, and then you were going to use every freaking square on that grid to, get the most out of your dungeon. I guess when we were creating dungeons, I'm guilty of the same thing. I've made dungeons that were freaking ridiculous back in the day, and I've learned over the years. I'll make a map on graph paper that's, I'll cut the graph paper in like 3 sections, and they'll just be like a tunnel, and then it leads to the next section, and there'll be a couple of rooms and a tunnel, so that there's more, rock than there is open space. Oh, wow, Wesley, that sounds like a freaking blast.
Hey, Hungar, your shirt's shipped, buddy, and they fit good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm also giving away an Arduin shirt because they sent me one I asked for a large. They sent me a 2XL. Do I look like a 2XL? It's
You
not
look
going
like
to fit
an
me.
XL, maybe.
Yeah, a large is still is iffy, but the one they sent Jack is great. He's already worn it. They're nice shirts. And I will be buying some Hungar shirts. Start of the year. Actually, a bunch of different shirts because during the summertime, when we're on camera, I like to wear something. Whether it's my D&D shirts, my John Carter, something like that, just to get into the spirit. Do a little bit of subliminal advertising. Might pick up a Legion of Myth. We're working on getting some shirts of our own made eventually, but that's later next year.
I get it. Trust me. I'm looking at doing mugs.
Oh, they
like
sent us a couple of coffee mugs too. Freaking stellar mugs too, by the way. Jackie, of course, got the cool one with the hell spiral on it, and I got the one with some adventurers doing some adventure-y stuff. A hell spiral, in case you guys don't know, is what it sounds like. It's a stairway that goes, from here to hell, and every so many dozen steps or so, you literally come across a new freaking monstrosity from the depths of hell that you have to fight as you're going down and down and down and down and down. It's kind of a sort of a slog, but fighting on a stairway is way different than fighting on anywhere else. It's one false step and you're done for. Very very reminiscent of the mountain battle that Corwin had to fight to get back to Amber in the Amber Chronicles.
So, you played this for about what, eight campaigns, and they didn't last that long.
No, it was either the GM was not great or the party just wanted to go and play other games. One of the things that I keep noticing is that the treasure and the magic items is like the biggest draw to a game. Me too. I mean, I love magic items. I'm famous for making some pretty cool magic items. And when there aren't those kinds of treasures, when treasure is just more ammo or a new gun or something, or replacement gear, it doesn't have that same drawing power for a lot of players. This was pre-murder hobo thing. I mean, the mentality was there, but the name wasn't codified yet. And a lot of people just don't get into a game unless there's something, even if it's alien technology or higher technology than you're used to. If it's just more of the same stuff just to keep you alive, they just don't get into it as much. I don't know. Have you ever had that experience?
I have that happen a lot with modern or future-ish games. The only games where I've been able to keep things going because of the right amount of quote unquote loot coming in was either Star Wars or Dungeons and Dragons. Hungar's
Yeah.
like, I'm going back to sleep. See you tomorrow at my time, Shadow.
Yep. We Jackie and I will be there with bells on. We do. Hungar and I do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, noon his time, little chill stream just to shoot the breeze and make sure Hungar's not in the hospital. And heck, I think we did one when he was in the hospital. And just we just talk about whatever he wants to talk about. It's a fun little show, and it's cool because Jackie will get to hang out with us and do that because everybody loves Jackie. It's they come to see the little guy, not me, most of the time because he's just such a freaking wise ass.
He's a good kid.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that you and him are father and son duo for gaming the right way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, every time I start talking about Mutant Chronicles, I want to go into Warzone and talk about that. But then there's also the other side of Heartbreaker that really broke the company, and that's Chronopia. Chronopia was the line they put a bunch of stuff out and nobody bought it. Nobody bought that at all. You would I was going into game stores in central Illinois finding Chronopia figs still available in blister packs. And that's the one thing that kind of broke your heart because, like, Chronopia wasn't a bad game. It was the same game engine. You could play Chronopia armies against your Mutant Chronicles or against your Warzone figs. You could do that.
Uh-huh.
And it would come out right on the point values. So you could have a really good setup for a game, but they like everything that game touched, like it was looking like, the game is going to succeed this time. Maybe they've got the right funding, maybe they've got the right people behind it, and it just fall apart each and every time. Your buddy Bob Watts, who's over at he's at a few different companies he's been president of, but he's on LinkedIn. I wonder how much he was involved with other stuff because he was involved with Hasbro and WotC back in 99 to 2001. I would like to know how much of a hand he had in it because 3.0 kind of had a botched release. It actually did when you look at it because they didn't have a good schedule for releases for the third edition of the game. It was staggered out and not on a schedule that I would expect. It was not separated by a month. It was like a season between books. In fact, Necromancer Games released the first monster manual with the creature catalog, which was for their Scarred Lands game for the most part. But that's just me waxing nostalgic. But every time I think about Mutant Chronicles, it's like it's a really good system. It's got some really positive things about it. But when you look too deep at it, you're like, oh man, there's a lot of mess ups here. Because they diversified in all these different lines, card games and board games and video games, and some of this stuff really just didn't make money, like the video game. I don't know if you ever saw. Oh yeah, then they invested millions of dollars in the massively multiplayer online game, which never came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll break your heart if you look at it too much because this system, the game is set up really well. The rules back the system, and people that played it will tell you they enjoyed it. They had a good time. A lot of people from your camp would be like, "No, I didn't get any magical items or gear. It wasn't really a fun game." We went back to D&D.
Yep.
I don't think they really enjoyed it because they didn't understand the world they were playing in.
Which is weird because we would play we played more of the card game than we played any other Mutant Chronicles franchise game. And like you said, Chronopia was an excellent alternative to some of the other, like Warhammer Fantasy Battles. It was like, all the same, kinds of races and ideas, but with a little bit more dinosaurs, I want to say.
Yes.
And they had those really cool box sets that had the cardboard terrain with a couple of special miniatures in it, and those were phenomenal. Even the ones for Warzone, I have the bridge, which was a monster to put together, but when you did, it looked great. Mind you, it was made out of really thin cardboard, but if you were smart and you did like what we did, we would take all the sheets of cardstock over to the local printer and print them out, and have multiple copies of the same thing like the bridge. So we would have the bridge, spanning across an 8-foot table, or multiple bunkers, or the cathedral piece set that we had. We just make a bigger one and things like that. For people who didn't, have a lot of imagination to make terrain, it was right there in the box, and then it came with a couple of cool pieces. Chronopia had freaking massive, giant dinosaur-ridden, like dwarves or lizardmen riding dinosaurs, all kinds of stuff that, Warhammer Fantasy Battle, they went the more traditional route with griffins and dragons and stuff like that. And it was all, good, solid resin pieces. I still have all the giant, like the Praetorian Behemoth and the Mercurian Maculator resin sets that now sell for like $200. And to me, when I see something like that, that tells me that there is a huge, not just collectors but players market for when you can, still when you can sell a model or a miniature for $200 in today's market and expect to get it. You may have to wait a while. That means there's a lot of people out there willing to pay that kind of money, because the seller's done the research and knows that the last time one of these sold, it sold for X dollars. So if I'm going to sell one, might as well put it up for that price. That means, it's pretty popular and sought after. Not like crazy amounts of people, but when they're ready to pay that kind of money. And that to me tells me that it was and still is being played.
It really is still being played. There's a lot of people I know that play the first edition Mutant Chronicles over the second, over the Modifius. They would rather play that because of the gritty feel that the system gives you. You could, as you're doing your character creation from the lifelines, like you can get this sense of palpable dread no matter what. It just always felt like the game, we were 30 seconds away from an apocalypse.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I just, like I said, I look at Heartbreaker and I look at Target and Warzone and Chronopia, and I'm like, man, this was the right game. It was at the wrong time. I don't know when the right time is. That was better than none. I mean, they brought out a great system that was enveloped by a lot of people. They brought it to their game tables. They played it for years.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody.
Oh.
It seems like they didn't do it right. Because every time they re-release it with a new rule set, it's not the game I want to play. I like the old version a lot. Go ahead.
Well, the miniature war game really didn't change at all through the printings or the editions. It was just the original war game, Warzone, was in a bunch of separate books that came out as supplements.
It was a supplement-fed book, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
for Warzone, but then
Warzone.
And then Warzone came out in a big Games Workshop style box set that literally, gave you 2 armies and all the books you'd ever need. And then it came out, Warzone Ultimate Edition had not only everything that was in all the previous editions, but it had some new stuff, fueled by miniatures made by Excelsior Games. So they had new miniatures, had new rules, all in the big giant omnibus of Warzone Eternal. And that was, that was the literal ultimate and best edition. Usually second edition of something is the best, but the third edition that was the absolute best. And it's still super playable. I've seen what is it, Guerrilla Miniatures, that YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. They've done a bunch of or they did a bunch of battles, and I watched those, and I'm like, yeah, it's the same freaking game I played when I was decades before that, and it's still one of their favorite games. And Ash is, that guy's rock star when it comes to, watching somebody teach another person play a game and then play it, and sometimes even lose, because he taught the other players so well, that when I want to see a game review, that's usually where I go when it's a war game. That is.
Well, it's kept their audience for over 20 years, and that right there in the industry is saying quite a bit. I think if GW wouldn't have had all the rules revisions over the years, it wouldn't have had the drop that it's got. But there's a lot of people that used to play Warhammer, and they do not anymore.
Nope. They went chasing after the money more than the players, and they should have understood that it would have been better to make a less expensive product more accessible than to bankrupt every one of their players. Hey, what's up, Joseph? Just talking some freaking some Mutant Chronicles and Warzone and all the mistakes that they came across. I to me personally, it's easier to just think, between the name Heartbreaker and for the company and the Curse of the Dark Cemetery, just keeping the game down, that makes more sense than anything for my peace of mind, because there was absolutely nothing wrong with the product. The miniatures were great, the prices were great, the availability was just fine. It just maybe it was just too much competition for other things at the time, because back in the 90s there was a lot to choose from. When I went to my local store, Brookhurst Hobby, there was just constant barrage of new games, new books, new products to spend your money on, and it's just a shame. I am gonna go and read the Venusian Apocalypse 3 book module for the game, just so I can get an idea of what, figure out what I missed by not getting to play in it or run it, because I could have run it. Maybe they did something to make it run through three modules. Like the Slave Lords or Against the Giants, some of the famous D&D modules. They managed to even the Slave Lords. That one was terrible. Did you ever play through that one, Against the Slave Lords?
No, I've looked at it, and I've been like, okay, not for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It looks okay, but whenever I start taking a good look at it, it doesn't come out right. It really doesn't. It looks like it's a well-meaning adventure, but it does not sell me, because when you start looking at it any closer than just a cursory glance, you start seeing problems right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate saying that about a classic module, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, Mar, the horror stories I've heard about the secondary market, how they stomp on the mom and pop game stores, that those kind of tactics and those things they did. Just I've got a Games Workshop 5 minutes away from my house, which is there was a time that I would have been in a hog heaven to know that there was a Games Workshop 5 minutes from my house. I've been there less than a half a dozen times since it opened. I was there for the grand opening when I didn't know the things I know now. My son and I went. We got a couple of free figures that weren't actually free. We thought they were free. We walked out with them. So screw you, Games Workshop. And we never even put them together or painted them. They were the Space Marine captain. We've got like 3 of them. we thought they were free. We grabbed them and looked around and walked out. Nobody stopped us, and went back and then found out, oh, they weren't free. Oh well, okay. Didn't say, hey, we walked out with them, but we felt bad because we thought they were free. And then we went and we tried to get my son to get to sit down and paint and get free lessons and stuff. And they said, oh, no, you've been here before. You can't do that.
I just quit going there if I were anybody with, common decency sense. I would abstain from a GW store. It never works out for the hobby, in my opinion. Not with them in town.
Yep.
Can't even run a game there. Can't have a game, actually going on there unless it's one that's being reflected right now in the current issue of whatever White Dwarf they've got. Not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally I'll go and get some paint or some primer if I want like really good primer for some like really highly detailed but thinly detailed miniatures. I'll grab a can of their primer. Occasionally, I'll pick up some of their paint, their Valhallan Blizzard or whatever. It's a technical paint. It's really just some sort of putty like stuff that makes really good snow effects. Stuff like that. I'll grab from them. But otherwise, I just I pass it all the time. I pass that store. About 25 times a year. I go by the store. They're still there. But I don't go in anymore. It's
okay. Fair enough.
It's a shame, They had a Games Workshop club at my son's high school, and he's not interested. He's got an unopened box of Necrons that I bought a couple years ago. He knows all the BS that goes along with the rules, and well, now those miniatures you can't use them. We don't use those those units or those rules. Now you got to buy this new book to be able to it's just a never-ending cycle of give us more money so we can treat you like crap.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons why I don't give them any money. I apologize. I apologize, Shadow. Starting to run low on my batteries here, and
no worries, man. I figured we were only going to chat for an hour. We did 2. Got to talk with a lot of our good friends here tonight. We appreciate all you guys coming in, and hanging out.
And Cal and James L. Go ahead.
Joseph and Keith. I know Keith took off. Hungar, all the greats were here tonight. Bo, of course. Mar Hawkman. All of you guys. We'll do this again whenever Bruce has got a little bit of time to do this. We'll talk about the Venusian Apocalypse. That'll give you some time to read through these 3 books and talk about it and see why why not it would be. Yeah, I mean, the Second Seal of Repulsion, the 4 Riders, and Beyond the Pale. I mean, what's not to love about the like you said, Revelation style events in a future dystopian situation, campaign. It sounds like, at the very least, I need to either run this or play this once in my lifetime, because this is like their crowning achievement for the game when it comes to the story that they really want the people to be involved in. And I'll see if I can dig some of those comic books out for you, because it's like a 4-book set of comic books in the Mutant Chronicles universe. And I know you like comic books. I'll find a way to get some out to you, because I've got a ton of extras.
Okay, you don't do that, but appreciate it.
And no big deal, dude.
Thursday night, I don't know what's going on Thursday night. We might be playing in that campaign that Connell's running, but if the weather gets shitty for Illinois, uh, if power's not off over here, we'll do a paint and chill stream. Hey, Mike, we'll do a paint and chill stream if they've got no power over there, and we'll see what happens. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good. I need to get some painting done by the end of the month. We always show off what we did every month, and last month was really busy with my son's after school activities. That's why you may have noticed us not having as many videos up in the evening. Just he's got to do his JROTC thing. He's got fencing class. He's got chess club, and he's got to walk his friend home from school. So I'm not getting in the way of that. And we appreciate you guys hanging out and getting us to 500 plus. We got like 5 subs yesterday. It was great.
The fact that you made a 500 subs so fast is great. That's what I got to congratulate you on. You did well.
Well, you and Max helped out so much. I mean, seriously, but more so than you two, I got to thank Cal Vanoni. He was the guy who said, "Hey, go check out these channels and hang out." And I'm gonna have to do something real special for him because the channel would be so different if it wasn't for him, saying, check out Max, check out Bruce, check out, these guys. And through them, I met other people, Connell and Fritz. And, because we were just doing the craft, just totally crafts and a little bit of reviews. And now we're doing, a lot of different things thanks to all you guys. And we've got some really cool stuff planned for the new year. Hopefully it will be better than the last one, not just for us, but for all our good friends out there. Howdy, Mike. Good seeing you again. Bo, I'm down on Thursday. I'll paint with you. You know what? That sounds like fun, provided we're not gaming. And maybe, who knows, even if we are, if Bruce wants to paint for a little bit afterwards, I've got a ton of stuff to paint. And yeah, this was fun, Bruce. Thanks for coming on. Talking about one of my all-time favorite games that just didn't get enough love, and hopefully the fans of Mutant Chronicles out there will hit us up in the comment section and come back next time. And who knows, maybe one of these days I'll run a freaking Mutant Chronicles RPG online.
That'd be a lot of fun. It's definitely worthy of gaming, and it's one of the better RPGs that made its way to mass media. It's just a shame that every time it starts getting big, it collapses. I mean, whenever they were doing the reiteration of it in 2008, it started to get big, and they made a movie with Thomas Jane, and then nothing was said. I don't get it. This is the third flat of miniatures I've got for this year. This puts me over 390 figs that I've got complete for the year so far, and they're just waiting to get some varnish and maybe a little bit of frocking, but these guys are ready to go, and I'm happy. I usually don't get that much done in a year, but this year I've made a dedication to do this. Part of the reason why I made it 2,000 to over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is the desk. This is all the shit that I've got to work. And then in the back, I've got sprues behind lava lamps there. And then over here, I've got a primer flat that I got to work on. Just find a hobby that you love and do it, guys. That's all I can say.
Yeah, let's make 2023 all about getting some stuff done, getting some paint on, building some kits, something like that. Like I said, instead of spending so much time, with your face buried in a screen, not you guys, because I want you guys watching, the screen whenever Bruce and I are on, and hanging out and stuff like that.
Did GURPS ever get popular? No, not really. It's just its own game that not a whole lot of people play. People have like the books for source book material for their own games that they play, but I don't know many people that play GURPS actually. Not consistent, not anymore.
Connor played the hell out of it, from what I hear. Connor played the hell out of it.
Yeah.
I actually owned it, and I liked a lot about it, except character creation. I liked the concept, but it was just a little bit too much. I like the idea of point build characters,
Mm-hmm.
but it just, you know, I don't know. It just maybe it was at the time there was too many books all coming out at once. Because there was things like I loved, like the Horse Clan novels. That was, I mean, I never would have dreamed that would have been, a role playing thing. I'm getting ready to reread the Horse Clans this year, just because I never made it all the way to the end. And they were doing things like that. They did Traveler. They did some of the Alan Dean Foster books. I think like Ice Rigger and Crystal Tears and stuff like that. As I mean, they went after really big things, but maybe it was just too much, too fast for people to deal with, or maybe it was the game system itself. If it takes you, the better part of a night to make a character, that to me that seems like a kind of a deal breaker for a lot of people, unless you've got a lot of spare time and you can do a DM and a player one night, a DM and a player the next night until you're all ready to play, and then hopefully you don't get killed the next night.
That would be applicable for a game like that. I mean,
Bo,
there's some
you
games where
kill
you
it.
don't want to have everybody at the table at once.
Yeah.
Looking forward. Hopefully, Con will be with power so we can play tomorrow night or Thursday night. But
Yep.
if not, we'll do a paint and chill stream because.
And tomorrow I'm actually hosting Gatekeepers, where I will be talking about ancient ruins and how to use them with some of, because a lot of us gamers out there have a really big secondary or tertiary hobby of studying archaeology, and I'm one of those guys, and I'm going to talk about that and how my study of such things have enhanced my gameplay, and hopefully it'll help you guys out there who do the same thing. If you're if you like studying the pyramids or whatever, all those really cool places that don't make any sense, or maybe they do make sense to you, talking about how you can use some of those elements in narrating your parties through these ancient ruins, or maybe there's some fictional accounts that you want to transfer over, like that great scene in Conan with the giant slug. I do that with every new party. The first time they go to ruins, they're gonna fight a giant slug spitting acid every time.
Not bad. Not bad.
So everybody, have a great night. If we don't see you until after the holidays, Merry Christmas. We love you guys, and thanks everybody, Bruce, everybody.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Shadow's still a ways off from 1,000 subscribers, and while he still has to do his 500 subscriber giveaway stream, I would really like to see him hit 1,000 in 2023. Thank you, everybody, for helping him get there.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, people. Be well.